some of the asylum seekers. In other words, we had a situation here where employers were desperate to hire these individuals who had made their way.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna cut that. Susan Collins from Maine. I'm originally from Maine. I haven't been back to Maine in years. And she is rattling on about how she thinks the waiting period for asylum seekers, aka basically illegal immigrants, is what I'm going to call them in America. Before they can work in a business legally, should be shortened. I 100% disagree with that. I think illegal immigration. She was saying there's like 900 people from the southern border in Maine, Portland, Maine, in her city there. And I 100% vindictively, vehemently disagree with that. I think I'm all for diversity, but I'm also all for integrity of the process because what that does is that it provides cheap exploitable labor, sure, for businesses, but that's not a good situation in terms of it's just not sustainable. We need those jobs to go to Americans, is what I argue. We need Americans to be able to have an opportunity to get the jobs in the businesses, like she was mentioning, a local restaurant or a hotel who is housing these quote unquote asylum seekers, aka illegal immigrants. They shouldn't be coddled. You know what I mean? They shouldn't be basically getting these welfare. They're taking the opportunities from lower income and middle income American families and American workers, and they're bringing the bar down because they're willing to do that same labor for less money. They're cheap and they're exploitable, and they're willing to basically put themselves in vulnerable situations. We've seen it. I talked about the housing market in Whitefish, Montana. You can do some research. There's articles showing that there's roofing crews, for instance, there that are from Mexico and California and other places like that, and they're working with no days off. You know what I mean? Those employers that are employing them are not following American labor practice laws. And they think, well, we don't want to go vacation. The Mexicans are cheaper. We're just going to get the job done. Well, they're sleeping 20 to 1 room. You know what I mean? That's not a safe housing situation. That's against building codes. So there's bigger ramifications to this stuff. Building on that, when I was talking about how they displace the American worker, it's basically because those employers want that cheap exploitable labor. They basically want slaves. They don't want to have to follow the laws for housing. They don't want to have to they won't want to give days off. They want people who they can manipulate, and it allows them as a business to spend less money reaching their profit margins, basically. So, but the reason we have those laws in place in terms of housing, not having 20 people for a room, or in terms of, labor laws, in terms of giving people days off and rest breaks, etc., here in this country, is because if those laws are not followed, those same people end up becoming a burden on our criminal justice and our healthcare systems down the line. So there is a reason we have those laws, and we need to respect the integrity of the process, I would argue. You know what I mean? And that sets us up for success and all other things. Because if we let these people come, then they get subsidized housing. They're again burden on our healthcare, burden on our criminal justice systems, and it becomes something where that subsidized housing, it's all driving taxes up. It's taking opportunities away from American workers and American families, and it's driving the taxes up in the housing markets around the area. They're the same people that are going to get the scholarships just because they're a different color. They're taking the opportunities from Americans, and it's important for us in America to respect. There's a reason why we have laws. There's a reason why we have timelines and processes, and we don't need to erode that. The fiber and the strands of meaning that our nation was built upon, because immigration is not a bad thing, and as long as it's done correctly and legally, and there is a process and it needs to be followed. Diversity is a good thing, but it's not done at a price of of the steps that it takes to come and work in our country, in terms of the legal correct steps, and that's basically it. Third or second part of that whole thing, talking about Collins' bill, illegal immigrants trying to shorten the work period. It really makes me think of my own history and heritage a little bit. As someone from originally from Maine, and it's like the French Canadian background. New Brunswick, one side of my family, they all speak French, and they were, I don't know if they were illegal immigrants, but they were, immigrants from Canada, just one generation back. So, that the immigration story is part of my story too, even though I'm like a Caucasian guy. You know what I mean? And we're talking about like the issues with the Mexican immigrants, a state like Maine borders Canada, and think of like Jean Chenard, another guy, or Jack Kerouac. Even there's a lot of different notable people who have that French Canadian background, like myself. Growing up in a household where half of the family direct ancestry, like my mother, fluently speak French. And it's not something that I think people, might appreciate just glancing at me. I might get classified as someone who's, really white. You know what I mean? Where they don't understand the backstory of the struggle, and the immigration. Those storylines are woven into my, direct ancestry and my heritage as well. Even though I'm not like a Latino Mexican immigrant, so I'm empathetic, but I still think, there's and the issues with the southern border are just, I think there's a bigger magnitude. It's just such a more colossal thing than the stuff that I've heard, some of the storylines and the heritage and the history coming from New Brunswick.